First, after facing backlash for heckling King Charles at Parliament House on Monday, Independent Senator Lidia Thorpe has offered a defence of whether the protest breached her parliamentary oath. Our political reporter Oliver Gordon joins us now from Parliament House. Good morning, Ollie. Tell us what Senator Thorpe had to say and what's the reaction been so far?
Good morning, Bridget. So the plot thickens in this really pretty incredible story, which all started on Monday here in Parliament House in the Great Hall when Independent Senator Lidia Thorpe yelled at King Charles saying, "You are not our king and this is not your land." A number of coalition MPs suggested that Senator Lidia Thorpe may have breached her allegiance to the Crown in doing so. And then yesterday, in a pretty stunning revelation, Lidia Thorpe told the ABC's afternoon briefing program that when she was being sworn in, she didn't swear allegiance to the Queen's heirs, but to the Queen's heirs. Let's take a look at that footage from a couple of years ago.
I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors according to law.
Senator Lidia Thorpe swearing in a couple of years ago there and pledging allegiance to the Queen's heirs, not the Queen's heirs. The coalition backlash has been pretty swift so far. We've seen opposition leader Simon Birmingham release a statement saying that the coalition is exploring options and considering legal opinions as to the implication of Senator Thorpe's admission. An important part of this story, Bridget, we just saw the spoken part of the swearing in to federal parliament that Lidia Thorpe did a couple of years ago. There was also a written part. So she also signed an affirmation on her swearing day. So it's possible that her signature could satisfy the Senate that she's been sworn in appropriately. The ABC has gone to constitutional law expert Anne Toomey, who has suggested that this is now a matter for the presiding officer in the Senate. So another twist in this pretty amazing story. Bridget, we'll be following it closely here at Parliament House.
Yes, Ollie, not a great deal of precedent for this, I'd imagine. Thanks very much for taking us through it.
The New South Wales Premier is flying into a political storm this morning, 1 week on from the storms that wiped out transmission towers, plunging the state's far west into a power crisis. Chris Minns has spent the past 3 days blaming Transgrid for major outages in the area, saying one of 2 backup generators in the outback city had been offline for 12 months. But the energy infrastructure company has clapped back overnight, saying the Premier's claims are not true. For more, we're joined by reporter Grace Atta, who's there. Grace, tell us a bit more about what's happened overnight.
Yeah, so overnight, what's still been going on is load shedding, which essentially means that people have been having very inconsistent and unstable power to the region. So in Broken Hill, various areas have been coming on and off of power. And I think the major issue for a lot of locals is they haven't been communicated to at all about when that would be happening exactly. So they don't know whether it was going to happen at 6 o'clock at night, at 9 o'clock at night, or when. And we saw on social media here in town that quite a few people are upset about that. I saw one comment from someone who said they were halfway through cooking their dinner in the oven and the power cut out, and that plan pretty much didn't work out for them. So yeah, look, there's a lot of frustration around that. And outside of Broken Hill, because we're talking about the far west more broadly, we saw that Menindee, Wilcannia, Whitecliffs and Tibooburra, these are smaller communities on the outskirts of Broken Hill and within the far west. They were without power for hours last night, and some of them even lost telecommunication abilities. So, look, it's not ideal, and there's a lot of distrust now in whether they're going to be communicated to properly and what's actually going to be available to them moving forward.
So difficult for businesses to operate in those conditions as well. Grace, what's the political response been overnight?
Yeah, look, this is, and you've covered some of this just before, but I mean, this has really been a bit of a political hot potato around who wants to take blame for this, and the answer is no one wants to take blame, really. We saw that the state opposition questioned Minns about how this could happen. He very quickly bit back and said that, you know, ultimately it was the opposition who privatised the area and that this should never have been privatised. The power provider should never have been it should never be a privatised of a public service. And that service being Transgrid, they're the providers currently. So what Minns also point to Transgrid saying that the generator, we had 2 generators in Broken Hill, and we found when the outage happened that only one of them was actually functional. Minns had said earlier that it was left, the second one was dysfunctional as of November last year. Transgrid have come back to us at the ABC and have told us that that is incorrect, that it was functional up until September this year. And then during September, they were doing refurbishments and realised that the issues with that generator were far worse than they first thought. And it was going to require longer to fix. And obviously, in the midst of that, less than a month later, where we are now, we had the power outage and we were left with all of our eggs in the one basket with that one generator, which then tripped on Monday night. And as you said, you know, Premier Chris Minns is coming to Broken Hill today, and he'll also be travelling to other areas of the far west. And he's called as well for an independent, or he said that there's going to be an independent IPART investigation into whether Transgrid, the power provider, has breached their licensing conditions over the last few days and what's happened here. And in large part because of whether there's actually been enough contingency plans to ensure that the far west weren't left behind and left in the dark during an outage like this one.
It's an awful situation, Grace. Thank you so much for the update.
Well, in more news, police are still searching for 2 people accused of fleeing a fiery truck crash on the Logan motorway south of Brisbane. A truck carrying hazardous material burst into flames when it collided with an alleged stolen car on Tuesday night. It's alleged the occupants of the car left the scene on foot.
New South Wales commuters are being warned of delays this morning due to industrial action. 12 lines are affected, including Liverpool and Inner West, the Blue Mountains and the South Coast line.
Senior custodians of Gunlam Falls in Kakadu National Park are welcoming the end result of a landmark court case around damage to a sacred site. Parks Australia has been fined $200,000 after pleading guilty to damaging the sensitive men's site when building a walkway at the falls in 2019. It's the largest fine ever handed down in accordance with the NT's sacred site laws and the first time a Commonwealth agency has been punished under the legislation.
The New South Wales Government is set to announce a new licensing regime for tobacco retailers in a bid to clamp down on the black market. Under the proposed changes, retailers will be forced to obtain a licence, pay an annual fee and pass a fit and proper test. Fines for operating without a licence and selling under-the-counter cigarettes will also be increased.
Well, a 13-tonne, $14 million sculpture Ouroboros will open to the public at the National Gallery of Australia today. The immense artwork, created by artist Lindy Lee, is designed to last for 500 years. It's based on the ancient story of a snake eating its own tail and has taken 4 years to complete. So I'd love to visit that one. It looks fantastic.
Looks amazing. Let's take a quick look at the global markets, and they're all trending down. The Dow Jones down, as is the futures. And look at the Aussie dollar. It's been steadily falling for almost a month, now buying 66.33 US cents. Not good news if you're travelling over to the US, that's for sure.